Okay, so ready to dive into the world of cannabinoids, but we're going way beyond your usual CBD and THC this time.
Yeah, this one's interesting.
Today's deep dive, CBGA.
It's a compound so fundamental to the whole cannabinoid
They
family.
call it the mother cannabis.
Exactly. And it's funny, for years, research was so focused on the more famous children, like CBD and THC,
Right.
that we kind of skipped over understanding this parent molecule fully.
Yeah, and now science is like, hold on, there's something special about mom here.
Exactly. We're finding CBGA has some really unique properties, and get this, some of them, they might be even more potent than the compounds it actually helps create.
Okay, so we're talking potential powerhouse here. We dug into some research articles. Inflammation, brain health, even gut health, which, let's be honest, is a hot topic for everyone these days.
Oh, absolutely. And, we also came across this company, Hemp. They're seriously invested in CBGA research. Like, they're even sponsoring this podcast called Hemp Explorer, all about CBDA.
Oh, wow. Okay, so they're definitely biased, but that doesn't mean their insights aren't valuable, right?
Mm.
We'll be sure to look at their stuff with a critical eye for sure.
Absolutely.
But for right now, I think a lot of people are probably wondering, like, why is this compound one they've probably never even heard of suddenly getting so much attention?
One word: COVID.
Oh, here we go again. It always seems to circle back to COVID, doesn't it?
It's true.
But seriously, this is where things get really interesting. Because some early research hints that CBGA might be able to block, like, a key pathway that the virus uses to enter our cells.
Yeah. It's like, imagine CBGA jamming the lock on the cell door so the virus can't even get in.
Oh,
And what's really interesting is that this mechanism, it might not just be limited to COVID.
wait, are you saying, could this work for other viruses too?
That's the question a lot of researchers are asking. It really makes you realize how much potential CBGA might have.
Wow. Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's break down what the research actually says.
So there was this one study out of Oregon State University, really caught my eye. They found that CBGA, it actually binds to the spike protein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus.
Which is, remind me, that's the one that,
That's the one that lets the virus latch onto our cells.
right, like sticking gum on a key to stop it from fitting in the lock.
Okay, that's a very simplified way to put it, but yeah, you get the idea. The thing is, CBGA wasn't just binding to one site on that spike protein.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was hitting multiple sites, which is unusual.
So it's like not even giving it a chance to try different keys. You're like changing the shape of the whole keyhole.
Exactly. And that's why researchers think CBGA might be effective even against all these different variants,
Oh, wow. It's like a multi-pronged approach, but at a molecular level.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of the big reasons people are so excited about it. This isn't just a one-trick pony. But I do have to add,
This is all still early research, right? Like we're not.
very early. We need way more studies, especially in humans, like to really nail down exactly how this works, what the real effects are.
Of course.
But it's definitely promising.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because this company we mentioned, Hempex, with their Hemp Explorer podcast and everything,
Yeah.
they seem to be like really pushing for more research on this stuff too.
Oh, yeah, they are. One of their big arguments is that if researchers had wider access to CBGA, especially the isolate, the really pure form, it could be like a game changer.
Yeah, that makes sense. If you want to do big studies, having a reliable standardized source
Exactly.
of the compound itself.
And it's not always even about the funding, Sometimes it's just hard for researchers to get enough of the material reliably.
So, okay, we've covered a lot. Benefits, the antiviral stuff, this company that's really into it. But let's, bring it back down to earth for a second. For someone listening to this right now, like, what does this all actually mean?
That is the million-dollar question, right? And as always, I have to say, we are not doctors. This is not medical advice.
Yeah.
The research is still new, and anyone who's thinking about this, talk to your doctor first. Always. But for people who are just curious, want to maybe dip their toes in,
What should they keep in mind?
transparency. Like, big time. When you're looking at CBGA products, you want a company that's really upfront about where they're sourcing their stuff from, how they extract it. And this is key, third-party testing. You want to see those lab results, independent verification that what they say is in the bottle is actually in the bottle.
And you mentioned before that Hempex, they have like a whole bunch of different CBGA products. Raw flower, isolate. What's the deal with that? What should people even be looking for?
Right. So Remember how we were talking about CBGA being like the mother cannabinoid?
Yeah.
So when you're talking about raw CBG flower, you're basically getting the CBGA before it has a chance to convert into those other cannabinoids.
Oh.
So if you're thinking, I want that maximum potential CBGA benefit specifically, that's an option.
Like getting the ingredient straight from the source
Right.
before it's been, like, mixed and matched and whatever.
Yeah, precisely. Isolates, on the other hand, that's for people who are like, I want pure CBGA, specific dose, nothing else.
Oh, interesting.
Which makes sense for research, or if you're someone who specifically wants to avoid other cannabinoids for whatever reason.
So it's like isolates are streamlined, targeted, and raw flower is more like the full spectrum of what?
Of what CBGA has to offer in its natural form.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So you've got options. But you also mentioned that hemp picks has full spectrum oils too. Those are a little different, right? So full spectrum oils, those are like, what, the whole like ensemble cast of the cannabinoid world, right?
Yeah, you could say that. You're getting your CBGA, but it's hanging out with all the other potentially beneficial compounds too.
Right. And this is where that whole entourage effect comes in, the one they talked about in those Hemp Explorer notes, right?
Exactly. It's like the whole idea is that all the compounds, not even just the other cannabinoids, but terpenes, flavonoids, everything in the hemp plant, they all work together, like better than they would on their own.
Huh. So it's not about just isolating one thing. It's more like understanding the whole system, how it all interacts.
Yeah, it's definitely a different way of thinking about it. Instead of breaking it down to the smallest parts, you're looking at the complexity of the plant itself.
Man, this whole deep dive, it really makes you realize how much cannabinoid research is changing.
Yeah.
Started with just CBD and THC. Now we're talking about their precursor, CBGA, and how it all fits together.
Yeah, and it just shows how important it is to keep exploring, to not get stuck on what we think we know, because honestly, there's still so much we don't know about cannabinoids and what they could do for us.
Like we've barely scratched the surface. And this whole thing with CBGA, the antiviral stuff, who knows what kind of research this could kickstart.
Right. Imagine if we could actually harness that power to make really targeted therapies and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Personalized medicine based on like your specific needs, how your body works.
That's wild. Starting with one compound, the mother cannabinoid, and ending up with like a whole new way of thinking about healthcare.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it, right? It shows you what happens when you come at science with curiosity and an open mind.
Couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of CBGA. Hopefully everyone listening found this as fascinating as we did. Until next time, keep those brains buzzing.